Hello everyone! Today I wanted to do a little fan art. I haven't done any in a couple months, so it's time. I decided to do some realistic portraits of Princess Tutu and Krehi. I did my initial sketch in Procreate. This saves time and paper since I can just clear an entire layer and start over rather than throwing away a piece of paper and getting a new one. I really like to do this if I'm going straight from my head and I don't really know what direction I want the piece to go in yet. Once I'm finished with the digital sketch, I print it out and I transfer it to my watercolor paper using my light table. And I didn't film that part because the light from the light table is too bright for my camera to film properly. Once this is done, I'm ready to start painting. Well, almost. I like to have a little bit of line art even in my realistic paintings, so I'm going to go over it with some darker colored pencils and regular graphite pencils to add a few defining lines here and there. Now it's time to start painting. I'm using this set of Turner watercolors, and I'm going to be flashing some of the colors that I'm using up on the screen periodically, but I'm also going to list all the colors I use in the description below. Now this set has some paints that are highly transparent and some that are more opaque. This took a bit of getting used to at first, but I tend to like to use the more transparent colors for the skin tones. And basically the way I paint skin is I go in with a really concentrated color where the color should be darkest, like around the eyes. And then I take a wet brush, wet with just water, and drag the color out to the rest of the area. Don't worry if the color is extremely light at this stage. It's actually better to add less paint and then build it up gradually in layers. My first layer is almost always so light you can barely see it. Now for Princess Tutu, I wanted a warmer skin tone, so I used more of the yellow and brown tones. But for Krehi, I wanted a cooler skin tone, so I added less yellow and a little bit of blue. And again, I'm going in with a highly concentrated color around the eyes and blending that out with the wet brush. I tend to do the most layers on the face, so I keep my layers pretty light, but I will go slightly darker on the body since I'm adding less detail and also I'm dragging the color out farther. I keep building up the layers until I'm happy with it. I may go back in later to darken it a little since I don't have any darker shades at this point to reference it to. Now I'm adding a darker color to the lips and nose. I tend to not deviate from the initial skin tone, so for Princess Tutu I keep it warm and for Krehi it's cooler. But if you wanted to add some contrast and bring attention to the lips, you could go in the opposite direction. But for my purpose, I'm going to focus mostly on bringing attention to the eyes and hair, so I'll tone down the lips a little bit. Speaking of eyes, I wanted to make them really intense colors, so it's a bright blue for Tutu and an intense violet for Krehi. So what is the reason I wanted to make a realistic painting of Princess Tutu and Krehi? Well, I'm going to Animazement. It's my first time in the Artist Alley at Animazement, and I'm super excited, and also super nervous. It's the longest convention that I've sold at. I've only ever done one-day events before, and this is 3 days. I mean, I've never even gone to a convention 3 days in a row, even as a regular event-goer person, so this is going to be intense. If anyone has any little nuggets of advice for a big convention first-timer, I would be super grateful. I already have some merchandise I made last year for other conventions I sold at, but I'm still planning on making a ton of new pieces, so stay tuned for that because probably from now until May, I'm going to be focusing primarily on pieces for Animazement. I have so many ideas, and I doubt I will have time for them all. I wrote out a list of all the anime series that I'm a fan of, and well, it's a pretty long list, so I doubt there will be a piece for each series. Do y'all have a favorite anime series? I'm definitely always up for suggestions for a new series to binge watch. Wow, this piece really moved on without me while I was busy talking about other things. So, I put down some pastel colors for the background, which I planned on being the first layer, and after this I didn't really know what I wanted to do with the background, so I went back to adding more details and darkening up the hair along with painting the dresses and other accessories. initially thought about leaving the eyelashes white, but decided to try painting them with the same color as the hair. I like them both about the same, but if I had managed to make the eyelashes look like feathers, I would have kept them white, even though I know in the series she has very dark lashes. Craihy's hair was still a little too light and not cool enough a tone for my liking, so I went over it again with a mixture of Phthalo Blue, Dioxazine Violet, and Burnt Umber. I varied the ratio of the colors on different parts to try to give her hair a little bit of an iridescent look. I finally decided to keep the background simple and only add one more layer, so I chose to go with a different color for each piece, each to resemble the character's eye color. I used the same technique as the first background layer. I put down some water to define the outer edge and spread it towards where I wanted to put down the color. Then I came back in with some concentrated color and drug it out until it met with the water and created a nice blurred edge. I also went back in later and used some paint splatter to unite the pieces by using the background color from the other piece here and there. Just like I did with the feathers, where there are white feathers on one piece, there are black feathers on the other. I did the same with the paint splatter. And last but certainly not least, I took some of this white ink and I painted in some highlights, refined edges, and added some random lines and splatters for some final touches. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, all the colors I use for these pieces, along with the brush and paper brands, are listed in the description, along with links to my other social media accounts. Feel free to leave questions, comments, and random thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know if there's a particular piece that you'd like to see me make in the future. If you liked and want to see more like this, please hit that like button and subscribe. As always, have a great day. Bye.